Alright, this is a review of Smash Up and Expansions and Big Geeky Box. Starting with Big Geeky Box. This is a box that you can buy from AEG that they put out as an improvement over the base box to house the base game and the expansions, which I got. And this is to look at the inside of the box. You can see that the box has these really nice thick walls. It's a really nice box. And the cards stand straight up. One of the problems I had with the original game was that I sleeve everything that I own. And the sleeves I use Fantasy Flight sleeves. And even though the original box could take card sleeves, it wouldn't fit these Fantasy Flight sleeves. It would crease the corners because it was just, the slots were just a little bit too small, and that annoyed the heck out of me. But anyways, I had thrown the insert away a long time ago because eventually it would have gotten to the point where you couldn't fit all the expansions in it, so... And I sort of made my own sort of insert for it, but I went ahead and bought this box. One of the nice things about the box is that it's got these separated cards that are really nice chunks of plastic. I mean, they're just very pretty, beautiful artwork on it, plastic. And my card sleeves finally fit in with no problems at all. The box comes with these to help, when you don't fill up a row. So the box is really nice. Just the one thing, though, is that the entire game to this point could probably it fits mostly on just one slot with a little bit left over on this slot. I just can't imagine filling the rest of this box. It would take years to fill the rest of this box. I guess they're thinking future, but just the box seems too large, quite frankly. But that's a lot of expansions you would have to make to fit in the rest of this box. The other annoying thing about this box is you can see that these edges, these dividers, they go all the way up to the top of the box. Okay. So, you want to put your instruction manual in. Fine, it sits on the top of the box a little bit. But if you have the manuals for the other games and you want to put them in there, you gotta kind of place them like that. Now, maybe you don't need all of the manuals, but some of the expansions have special rules, and you want to have the book. You don't want to just get rid of the book. I don't want to put it somewhere else and lose it. So, I like to have the manuals that go with the game, but if you set them on top of that, because this goes flush all the way to the top of the box, the manuals don't sit in. So you stack everything in there, close the box, and the thing doesn't close all the way. And that's annoying on a box that you buy especially for this purpose, that when you put the darn manuals in there, it doesn't close. What the heck? So, that's annoying. But the box itself is nice. I like the inserts. I think it's worth it to pick it up if you really like this game and you have the expansions. It's probably worth it to pick it up, throw it into another order you're making somewhere, and pick it up. So that's the Geeky Box. Oh, I don't get this, though. They made a special faction for this box called the Geeks, and I like most of the other stuff, most of the other expansion stuff, but I just think this is just a dumb idea. Why would you even play with it, with these? You've got all these other strange mythological creatures and imaginary creatures, and then you have these geeks playing against them. Cosplay. I like Will Wheaton, but I don't want to play a game with his card Felicia Day. Okay, great. I like tabletop, but I don't care to have this in a game. It's just wasted effort and wasted cards. I'll never play with this. I won't let anybody play with this if they play with me. I will hide this, but why did I sleeve the cards? Because I'm a fanatic. My grandmother sleeved her couch, so maybe it's in my genes, but she lived through the Great Depression. A lot of people sleeved their couches back then. But that's annoying. If they could have made one cool little faction to make this box a little more worth it, but this is not worth... I would throw this away almost. But I'm going to keep it, because maybe I'll sell it someday. So that's the Geeky Box. As you can see in the Geeky Box, they have all the expansions to date have these cards already made. So everything they've made to date has one of these divider cards, which is great. I hope that the future expansions that they put out, they make additional slots like these and put them in the box. I just don't know what AEG is going to do, if they're actually going to do that or not, because they just can't seem to get everything 100% right on this stuff. But there's just tons of factions now. There's more than I probably would ever need as it is. So, and it fits in 1/3 of the box. But that's basically the box. Like I said, it's got tons of factions. The one faction area that I don't like is this Cthulhu. I don't really like this at all. I think I played it with it once. It's got... The thing I don't like about it is the Magnus cards that you have to play. You have to add these into the game, which is already kind of a pain in the butt to set up as it is. I don't really want to add these into the game. And I play this with my family. And that's another point I'm going to get to later. I don't play this with a gaming group, and there's reasons why I don't, because I don't think they would like it, first of all. And so I played a lot with the family, but this is not... That's kind of, that's not a family-friendly card. The rest of the expansion seems pretty okay. But, this is like, it's just a big change in the direction of it. So I wish they had not done the obligatory Cthulhu expansion and just kind of kept to the sort of silly, kind of crazy stuff like giant amps and cyborg apes and spies and aliens and ghosts and things like that weren't so, disgustingly horrifying. If it wasn't for the Madness cards, I probably would actually play with them if I wasn't playing with my family and my son. But the Madness mechanic is... I don't like it. I don't like having to add things. I like when expansions add lots of stuff into it, but sometimes they add too many extra mechanics on top of what's already there, and that kind of just sometimes gets in the way. And I think that's what happened with that Madness expansion, this Cthulhu expansion. But the other expansions I like, so they're pretty good. So I would pick up the Cthulhu last if you're picking up the expansions for this game. Anyways, box aside. Alright. Smash Out's been out for a while. Probably, or I'm sure you know how to play. You've probably seen videos on how to play it. It's kind of hard to probably have avoided not knowing anything about this game. But the other thing about this game, before I even get into playing a little bit, is I have these blue cards. These don't even come with the game, and I don't like playing without these cards. I downloaded them on BGG, and what they are is they keep track of the score, because you're playing cards and that have power on around these are like bases you're playing cards around. Everybody's playing cards around them, And when the power adds up to this number here, 23, and it's different for every card, this one's 20, the base scores, and the winner gets the reward here, 4, the second place 2, the third place 1, and usually something on the card. This one here is actually something that happens every time a card's placed there, but some cards have end of rewards that go to the winner. But keeping track of what everybody, the amount of points on a card is a bit of a pain, because cards play on other cards, and it's really hard to kind of keep track of how many points are used. Just constantly recalculating what's there on the board. And you calculate it, and then someone takes a turn, someone else takes a turn, and you forget what you added up, and you got to add it up again. You got to look all the way across the table. You look at everybody's cards. You might miss something. So what I like about these is this is the starting point. I put a color on the ending point. I put this on the card if there's a power on the card that activates every time a player plays a card there, because I often forget that. So now what happens is when you play a card, let's say I played a power of 3 on this card, you just keep adding it up. When someone else comes in and plays, you just make the adjustment right then and there, and you know where in the card scores, and you know how many points are on the card. It just makes the game a lot easier. I just cannot believe AEG, after how long this game has been out, hasn't really actually put out something like this to go in the game, but that's an annoyance. It's easily fixed with this download from on BGG. These cards. So, anyways, in a game, on your turn, you draw. At the start of the game, you have 5 cards, I think. I always forget the amount of cards that you start with, but now the deck that I have is actually made up of the Cyborg Apes, and they have these really neat cards, and that's not even a card that goes in that deck. The aliens have the aliens, so I've mixed these two together. And a lot of card decks are going to complement each other with whatever abilities that they have. When I play, I usually don't worry too much about that, but if you were really playing to win, you might think of what decks would work really well with other decks and just try some strategies that way. That's one of the interesting things about the game, is trying different deck combinations. So you take 2 factions, and you actually mix the decks together, so you get this new sort of hybrid deck that's made up of 2 different factions, and you are playing cards. You can play an action and a minion. So let's say I've got this minion here. This is a alien collector. You may return a minion of power 3 or less on this base to its owner's hand. Well, I don't have anything out yet. Maybe that's not the best card to play, but I don't really have any other minions, so I'm going to play something out. So that gives me 2. And I get to play an action 2. A lot of these ape ones actually add power to cards that are already out there. Let's see here. Okay, how about this one? Just play on a minion. This minion and other actions on it are not affected by other players' actions, so it kind of protects that minion from other things from happening to him. And then in my turn, I draw up 2 cards. The most cards that you can have is 10. Then the other player would go, and this player's got a mix of the robots and the killer plants. So they would draw their cards and get started. And they can play on any of the bases. Oh, I also forgot, this actual base has, each time a minion is played here, the owner may play an extra minion of power 2 or less. Wow, if I only had an extra minion, I could have actually played this guy out for free. So you have to pay attention to the text on the cards. Alright, I've got Nukebot. Ongoing. After this minion is destroyed, destroy each other player's minions on this base. So actually, you can play this guy out, and if he gets destroyed, it destroys everybody. It kind of protects the base, I guess. Play him out here. So this goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the power here? Players cannot play actions on this base. So let's see. I have an action, play on a base. other players' minions have -1 power here, so maybe I'll play it on this base. On all the expansions, so I've put some money into the game. I play this a lot with my family. It's a game that comes out every so often, pretty consistently. You know, we play it, we have a good time. It's not a game that I've actually ever brought out in a gaming group, though, because I'm not really sure how well it would go out, at least with the at least with the group that I game with. I think that some of the criticisms of the game has been that there is some luck to it, as far as there's a little bit of chaos when cards go out. You really don't know what somebody else is going to do to you. You really don't know what cards you're going to have destroyed when it comes around to you. There's nothing you can really do to predict that. You might know what other people have in your decks, but you don't know what cards they have and what cards they're going to play necessarily. So there's that element of chaos, which I think does bother people. It feels like a deck builder, even though you already start with your complete deck. I think the deck building aspect of it is that you choose the decks that you want, you put them together, and then you're just cycling through it, you know, once, maybe twice in a game. It's neat to see how your deck interacts with the two decks interact, and how you can choose your decks depending on what strategy you might want to go for and which decks kind of work together. I have all the expansions, and there are combinations I'll probably never ever even get to. I like just pulling out deck. I don't think too much about which ones are going to work together. I just like mixing them together, having a good time playing it with my family. Some people have said that the game drags on a little bit too long. One of the things I do in a 3-player game, which is usually how I play it, is you're supposed to start with one additional base than you normally than there are players, but I like to play a 3-player game with 3 bases. I think 4 just kind of spreads it out too much, and there isn't as much fighting over the bases, so I like to play with 3. I think the game does sometimes seems to drag on a little bit. I think you can maybe lower the point value to help with that, but a little bit of a problem with that is, you know, the game is to 15 points, so, you know, the base is being worth 4. You know, if you win a couple of bases in a row, you've got 8 points. So if you lower the point value too much, you can get some swings in the game, like, very suddenly. So I think that's a hard balance. You know, it does seem like it can be a little long at times. So one of the things about the game that I don't think I wouldn't enjoy it as much if I didn't have these player boards, because when we first got the game, we were playing it without these boards. You were constantly having to recalculate what each base had for points on it, and it's not like it's hard to do, but like you calculate the points, and then you look at another base, you calculate the points, and then you think, oh, what was the other base again? And then somebody else plays a card on it, and it offsets the points. You have to keep recalculating it. So having these cards, I think, solves that problem. I just don't understand why they never came with the game originally. It seems like such a simple solution to that problem in general. So you always have to be aware of how many points there are from the players being played out there, because once it hits that 23 power, the base scores, and if you don't have enough of your cards in there to score first, second, or third, you're going to lose out. So you have to know what the point value is up to, so that you can determine if you want to play cards there, or even just forget about it and focus on something else. The game is light. There is some strategy with how you might want to pick your decks and how you're going to play out your cards, and knowing that, like, for example, these 8 cards, they have a lot of actions that play on other minions or play on cards that are already out there. So if you can get cards out on the board and you can follow them up with these actions, it can really pile on. So that's a neat ability you can take advantage of when you're playing with these ones. So each of the decks has a different sort of feel to it. So then one of the neat things about it is that the decks really do they do feel thematic based on what decks you have. Like I know, like the deck with the zombies. Once the zombies keep ending up getting killed and going to the discard pile, but they keep coming back out of the discard pile. So I think that's pretty thematic. And I think a lot of the decks were designed in mind with the theme of what that deck was supposed to do, and they actually do try to implement it, which I think is really neat. I think that's a fun aspect of the game. So I've had a good time with it. It can be a little chaotic with all the cards out on the board and not really knowing what another player is going to do. You don't know. You might have a bunch of cards out on your turn thinking you're in great shape to score, and then your cards could get killed or moved or something happened to them or your actions destroyed. So you don't really know what's going to happen, and so there's that element of chaos. I think that turns off some people. I don't mind it because I view this game as sort of a light, fun game. So that doesn't bother me very much, but I think it would bother people who are looking for a game that has a lot of serious strategy. It's got strategy, but you can't take it very seriously. And if you do, I think you'll be disappointed with the result of the game, because your plans are going to be ruined and manipulated and offset by what other players do, and there's nothing you can do about it, nothing you can do to predict what they're going to do. So there's that aspect to it. I like the bases. I like that some of the bases have powers and different things that they can do. I like that if you don't win, you can still get a bonus, like that other card that I had out. This one, if you come in second place, you can actually move a card off the base. So some of these powers actually benefit the people who don't win. There are some cards I know in the base deck where you're better off getting second place rather than first place on some of them because of the powers. And sometimes, most of the time, the winner gets this power. But some of the cards, it goes to second or third place, and so forth. There isn't too much more to say about the game. I've enjoyed it, but I take it as a light game, and I approach it that way for fun. I don't really worry too much about my plans getting ransacked midway through the game. I think it's part of it. I mean, it's sort of like a, mythological battle with all of these weird, strange factions fighting each other, and it's chaotic, and it's supposed to be that way. So if you look at it like that, I think you can have a good time with the game. How does it compare to other games out there that I might own? Let me think. It has a deck building feel, but it's not really a deck builder because you have a fixed deck. I mean, I guess it kind of fits into the category of something like King of Tokyo, though King of Tokyo is quite different. King of Tokyo is a light game, and if you're expecting too much strategy out of that one, you're going to be out of luck. But people seem to love King of Tokyo. This game seems to get a lot more criticism, and I think a lot of it is more from the length of it than anything else. I think it is a little bit too long at times. A lot of times when we play, about halfway through the game, sometimes we just leave it for a while and say we're done for now, we're going to come back and finish it later. So that's the negative, I guess. But other than that, I enjoy it. I'm planning on holding on to it for a while, and I will continue to pick up the expansions for it as they come out. So that's Smash Up.